Hey, it's Chris Mack, back again with another episode of Murse Monday. And on today's episode, I want to go over 3 tips and tricks whenever it comes to either putting in an INO catheter or straight catheter, and some tips and tricks whenever it comes to doing a Foley catheter, and insertion and removal both. Stick around. Alright, let's first preface with none of this is sterile. Okay, it should be in your technique, however, none of this equipment here this is all my old training stuff. Alright, so first tip I have is if you're doing a Foley, in other words it has a balloon on the end of it, your lube is going to come in a syringe that you're going to into your tray, and then you're going to put this in there. Now, our particular facility got a little upset about this, and I have no idea why, because it doesn't make any sense, because if it's in the packet then it's sterile. I think where the frustration is, I'll show you in a sec. So instead of taking your lube and putting it in the tray and then putting this in there and then hoping that it stays in the tray and doesn't wiggle all over the place, what some of our techs in the ED have been doing is they've been pulling the end off, taking the catheter, and inserting that into the lube like that. Now, I think what the problem was is instead of keeping all their sterile tray and everything, what they were doing is they would open up to the side, because it's the ED and they got to be fast, is that they were pulling that, inserting this, and then going over to the patient and doing their thing. So I think if you were to actually do this, nobody would have a problem with it. I don't have any problem with it, but one tip is, because if you pull the cap out of your syringe to put this in your lube, then you don't have to worry about this going all over the place. And if it does move a little bit here or there, it's touching the syringe rather than touching the catheter itself. So I actually feel like as long as you're over your sterile field that you've already made, that this is actually a really nice trick. Tip number 2, whenever it comes to inserting an actual Foley catheter, is that you want to make sure that you actually have your syringe connected on to this piece before you insert, because once you do insert and you get all the way in there, and then down here you see that you've struck gold, okay, then since you're holding on here, now you can transition to holding on out here. You don't want to hold very close, because this is your dirty hand now, that you can get a hold here so that way it doesn't come back out, and then you can let go with that hand, so that way you can actually see if you have any pressure and inflate your balloon. So I like to make sure that you have your syringe connected prior to insertion, so that way it's already there, and then like I said, once you're inside and you've struck gold, that you can then with your dirty hand kind of grip out here towards your wire, something like that, something that's not actually going to end up in the urethra itself, so that way you can grab a hold there, and you actually have this hand now completely free to do your inflation. Then when you're inflated, you can pop and you're done. Tip number 3 is about the removal, and how I said earlier about straight cath, this is for either a Foley catheter or a straight catheter, either or, and it's about your removal. So whenever you pull a catheter out, you still have urine in here, and then you end up with a mess as soon as you actually clear the urethra itself. And think of it like this. So I've got a straw here, and I'm putting my finger over top. It's the same concept, so that you have pressure because you've got the vacuum, and then whenever it comes out of the end of the urethra, then all of that water comes out all over the place. In this case it was water, but urine. So to keep urine from going all over the place like that, what you do whenever you're pulling out, whether it be a straight cath or it be a Foley catheter, is before you remove it, is you actually pinch the catheter closed, and then you remove it. Then you keep that vacuum. Then once you get this over to the trash can, or into if you are doing a straight cath, over your container that you were draining into, then you can put the tip of this into that container, open up that pinch, and then just like the straw, it's like taking your finger off of the top of the straw, and then all the urine that was in the catheter actually goes into a container or the trash can, rather than going all over your patient and in the bed. Hope you enjoyed that video, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to give me a thumbs up, and also subscribe to see more content later, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. It's Chris Mack.